Now, again, I've got to give you some history here. Back then, you would take an offering to the temple, to the priest. The fat thereof, which was the best part of the meat, would be offered to the Lord. And then what was left over was to feed the people in the temple, and especially the priest and so forth. Well, Hophni and Phinehas, they would come up and they would take it and they'd say, look, don't cook anything, give it to me raw, we'll take care of it. And what they would do is not sacrifice anything to the Lord, they would just cook it themselves and eat what they wanted. Now understand something, back in these days, those offerings were very, very important. They were supposed to be done exactly the way God had them set up. It came from the priestly tribe of Aaron, which was Moses' brother. It had to be this way. There was no deviating from it. And they knew what God said. They knew what they were supposed to do, but they refused to do it. And they also took advantage of women there. It said in the scriptures there, it says they laid with the women that were at the temple. In other words, they had relations with them. They were taking advantage of people because of their power. And God told Eli about it, and Eli did rebuke them, but he never did nothing about it. He never did nothing about it. And these two boys gave him problems after problems after problems. Now why is that important to know? Because Samuel went to the temple at the age of 3, probably 2 or 3. He grew up in this atmosphere. He's seen the godly man that Eli was. He's seen the ungodly father that he was. How he wouldn't handle some business. He's seen the good things and he's seen the bad things. But what did he do? He grew closer to the Lord. That's what you need. He increased. Okay? He didn't become inactive. He didn't say, because everybody else is like this, I'll be like this. He didn't say, I needed a sign from God that I'm doing the right thing. He just learned and learned and learned and grew in the wisdom and knowledge of the Lord. You see, he increased and he didn't let all these outside things influence him and the way he was. You see, it's kind of like today, on Sundays you come into church. And I know you want to be spiritually filled. You want to walk out of here and you want to say, wow, I really got something out of that sermon. I really got something out of that Sunday school lesson. I leave here and I feel like I'm filled spiritually in my life. And you have that spiritual fuel, let's say. Well, come tomorrow, when you're in that outside influence, you run out of fuel real quick. Like you don't get good spiritual fuel mileage. And the only thing that you can do is constantly fill up. Every day. You can't do it once a week. Because what happens is if you don't fill up every day, if you're not in the Word of God, you're not praying, you're not doing these things, and you're always looking for signs, you're going to be spiritually empty. You're going to be absolutely miserable with where your life is. You say, well, I'm a believer. You're still going to be absolutely miserable with where your life is. You're going to be spiritually empty. You're going to have no fuel spiritually. And that's the reason why it's so important to stay in tune with God daily. That's exactly what Samuel did. Now, so first you see he was willing to increase, not be inactive. Let me share the second thing with you. You must be willing to inquire, not ignore. You must be willing to inquire, not ignore. Look at chapter 3 now with me, if you would. Chapter 3, and notice verse number 1. And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli. Now the word minister actually means serve. And the word of the Lord was precious in those days, and there was no vision, or no open vision. Now let me explain to you what's taking place here. Back then, God spoke through prophets. He spoke through dreams. He spoke through people he raised up like prophets and Moses and people like this. But all of them are gone. Joshua, Moses, Abraham, all those are gone now. And at the time, it's kind of like a flat area. It's kind of like in between the Old Testament and the New Testament. There was many, many years of silence. between the last book of the Old Testament and the first book of the New Testament. Okay? There was over 500 years of silence there. Well, here there was kind of no open vision. There was nothing going on. And part of the reason why was probably because of Eli's son, who was making a mockery out of the temple there where the house of the Lord. Now, notice verse number 2. And it came to pass at the time when Eli had laid down in his place and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And here the Lamb of God went out into the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Now the ark was like a chest. It could only be carried by certain people. It could only be carried a certain way. And inside that chest was a bowl of manna, which he used back into the days where they came out of Egypt. There was Aaron's rod. Some of you might remember that, where they threw it down and became a snake, and he picked it back up and it became a rod. And there was the 10 Commandments. Inside that chest. Now, that ark, that chest, stood for the presence of God. It was it was something holy, and it was something to not be taken lightly. It had to be carried by a certain people, like the priest. It had to be taken care of. It had to sit in the temple a certain way, and so on. So it says that the ark of God, where the ark of God was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep. And the Lord called Samuel, and he said, Here am I. And he ran to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou callest me. And he said, I callest not. Lie down again. And he went and lay down. Verse number 6. And the Lord called yet again Samuel, and Samuel arose, went to Eli, and said, Here I am, for thou didst call me. And he answered, I've called not, my son. Lie down again. Verse number 7. And Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. Verse number 8. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time, and he arose and went to Eli, and he said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go lie down, it shall be, if he calls thee, thou shalt say, Speak, Lord. Now watch this, for thy servant heareth. Everybody say heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in this place. And the Lord came and stood and called at the other times, Samuel, Samuel, and Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth. Now the reason in our good confession we use part of what we say is, Thy servant heareth. And the reason why I wanted to repeat that today is the same reason why in verse 10. In verse 10, this word heareth actually means to listen and to obey afterwards. That's what it means. It means it comes with the intent of saying, Okay, Lord, I hear you, but not only am I going to hear you, I'm going to obey you. Some of you that have spouses, some of you that talk to your kids, sometimes your kids talk to your parents. Have you ever used the expression, it goes in one ear and out the other? Okay? We can listen, but it doesn't mean that we always hear. Okay? Now, alright. Hopefully I'll be loud enough for you, okay? Most people wonder, okay? He brought light, I guess he can bring a mic then. Most people want to listen to God, but with this intent, not to hear it. Not to say, Lord, okay, whatever you say, I'm going to do. I don't even know what you're going to say, Lord, but whatever it is, here I am, thy servant heareth. With the intent of, Lord, whatever you say, I'll do. What happens is most people say, okay, Lord, I want to listen, but with the intent that I might do it.